Everybody on this island is building something. I'm trying to get us saved.
People are saved in different ways, Bernard.
Lost addresses some of the big questions that face humanity. Why are we here? How do we redeem ourselves? What happens in the afterlife? Do we design our own lives, or is there some sort of grand scheme? If so, who's behind it?
You brought them here.
And we can look through the lens of various sacred texts to help us understand these questions.
Most religions, not all, but most, try and define what it means to be a human being, what it means to live in this world, and how one lives in relationship to the sacred. And the sacred can be the unknown, that which we really cannot know but always desire to.
It's not an island. It's a place where miracles happen.
I think the show stays away from picking a particular religion from which to construct its questions or to construct any sort of answers. You see influences of Hinduism, of Buddhism, of Christianity, of Islam, of Judaism, even some of the Greek and Roman mythology stories. You see, though, that all of these religions are asking some similar questions.
Can we redeem ourselves for our past transgressions? Can we make up for them? If we commit an atrocious sin, is there redemption for that? Will there be forgiveness?
Perdóneme, Padre, porque he pecado.
Well, certainly with this idea of redemption, that is, a Western idea.
Redemption is a central theme of the three monotheistic faiths, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. I think for Christianity in particular, you have sort of the popular language of being lost and then being found. You have lots of parables that Jesus talks about where you have a lost son who returns, or you have a lost coin that a woman finds. And that idea, I think, is central to what the Christian story is, which is that humans, by sinning, turn their vision away from God, turn their ethical lives away from God, and move in the wrong direction.
We can recognize our deeds as evil, as something that caused others, as well as myself, pain. And because of Jesus, and this is particularly in the Christian tradition, we can always turn away from sin and try to redeem ourselves.
I'm proud of you, Charlie.
I think that idea of redemption is not just getting a second chance, but is the idea that your past does not determine who you are. So there's no unredeemable person, so to speak, no unredeemable creature in God's eyes, because love is that inclusive and that powerful.
In each of the characters, the main characters' lives, they have issues in their past they're trying to work through. They may not know they're seeking redemption, but they're trying to work through something. They're trying to regain a piece of themselves that they've lost along the way.
Everyone gets a new life on this island, Shannon. Maybe it's time you start yours.
Kate has obviously murdered someone in her past. She's conflicted about it. And so she, at some level, wants to be redeemed in that way and get back to a point of her life where that murderous past is not determining who she is, in the sense of she's made whole again. I think that's one of the most profound definitions of redemption, is the idea of being made whole. I think Sawyer is someone that you can be disgusted about.
I'm not a good person, Charlie. Never did a good thing in my life.
But also root for, because at some level you root for him to find his redemption.
So the question is, how do they redeem themselves? What do they have to do? How much good do you have to do to make up for the bad things you've done? In terms of Christianity, at the end of life, redemption is all about, getting to the afterlife, making sure that you close that gap between you and your Maker, you and God.
Well, good luck, brother. See you in another life, yeah?
Generally, people are concerned with what happens after death.
You're not dead.
I am in hell. I know that I am in hell.
You really think you're dead?
Where else would I be?
Almost every religion asks that. Early Hebrew religion does not really spend a whole lot of time on it. It develops in Judaism slowly, but certainly it becomes a very popular theme in Christianity. There's some mentions of afterlife in Confucianism, definitely in Taoism. It's omnipresent in Hinduism and Buddhism. Jainism, and the Sikh tradition as well.
I think one of the interesting parts of Lost is that it looks at the concept of afterlife from lots of different perspectives. You have characters who are experiencing on the island what life might be like when they're not part of the mainland anymore. And then you have other characters who have obviously died while they were on the island, then seem to be coming back.
Don't do it, Michael.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead can be connected to Lost because there's so many images that we see on the show that have been mentioned in this particular sacred book.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead is really misnamed. It should be the Tibetan Book of Life and Death and Life, because it deals with a state known as Bardo, and that is a state between death and the next life. And it is a time fraught with danger, and all sorts of things can go wrong. You need someone whispering the Tibetan Book of Life and Death in your ear as you are going through Bardo, so that when you are reborn, you can pick the right womb door, the right place to be born in. And what's interesting is all the wrong womb doors have very attractive lights.
So what do you say, James? Are you ready to go home?
It looks good to go there, but you're warned against many of these lights because they are pulling you toward a life which would occasion you being reborn even more times.
They come, fight, they destroy, they corrupt. It always ends the same.
That's the idea of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, to prepare the soul to kind of get it right the next time and eventually want to reach nirvana.
People use the term reincarnation or rebirth, and that has a really good connotation. You know, I want to be reborn, everybody. But in Hinduism and Buddhism, it's being reborn into the human condition. And the human condition is essentially re-death. How would you like to go through eternity, dying over and over and over again? So the goal of life is to escape this pain. And the afterlife is not any identification with a god or a place. I can't explain what nirvana is. If I could explain what nirvana is, I'd be there. It is nothing that can be explained in human terms, except its permanence. It's the only state in which we can truly say no change takes place.
So this is what you wanted me to see. A hole in the cliff with some rocks on a scale.
There is actually a scale in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and on one side you have white pebbles, on the other side you have black pebbles.
Two players, two sides. One is light, one is dark.
It can be a visualization of karma, which are the deeds, the actions, actually, that one takes during one's lifetime. You know, to make them black and white is to say, for Westerners, it's good or evil. But within the framework of Hinduism and Buddhism, you're basically looking at deeds which either hold you to this world in a very strong way or allow you to escape.
There is a section in the Tibetan Book of the Dead called Judgment, you know, the Day of Judgment. And this isn't the same kind of judgment that you hear about in the Christian Bible. They don't use the term sin, but there is an image in there of a person looking into a mirror and seeing what the book calls your naked soul. So you see yourself for who you are, for all of the past transgressions, and then you're judged. In Christian theology, as opposed to a cycle, you have a straight line. You're born, you live your earthly life, you die, and depending on your judgment, you go to an afterlife.
The afterlife is a very definitive part of what it means to be Christian, because what it means is that the story of what we're living right now is not the only story. How we live now why we live the way we live now has meaning and purpose beyond just merely our physical bodies now.
Now, this idea of heaven and hell has ancient roots in, for example, Greek tradition, which is all part of the Mediterranean traditions that bring us to Christianity and developments in later Judaism and later Islam. There's a very ancient history of a dark force, and certainly Zoroastrianism plays into this as well. Good and bad, dark and light. And as you can see, they're very different from what you see in Buddhism, for example.
You sure it's an island?
Well, what else is it?
Little hot for heaven, isn't it?
This idea of hell and Satan, for example, are comparatively new. Satan is mentioned once in the Hebrew Bible. In the New Testament, Satan plays a role. He tempts Jesus, and essentially he or his minions possess people. And it's Jesus's major job to heal people, either of illness or possession of devils.
Traditionally, Christians have thought about having sort of a heaven and a hell scene wherein every human being that God created has his or her turn in front of God, so to speak, wherein God decides whether you've lived a righteous life or not.
What made you think you could mess with my life? I was doing just fine till you dragged my ass to this damn rock.
No, you weren't. None of you were. I didn't pluck any of you out of a happy existence. You were all flawed.
After we die, there is this concept that God or an angel or some force will look at our deeds during our lifetime and determine whether we go to heaven or whether we go into limbo, a state, or purgatory.
In the Catholic faith, you have the idea, the notion of purgatory, and that's kind of the middle place. I mean, if you want to think of it in terms of space, it's the middle place between heaven and hell. You can be redeemed from there and go to heaven, kind of work through your sins.
I think that's one of the themes that you see in the show, is that these characters or these people have been brought to this island in order to be judged either for past sins or for the events that they carry out on the island, or perhaps for both.
So using the island as an allegory for the afterlife is a good way to view it, because it is their afterlife. It's after the life that they lived before. It's a place that they can go. It's away from real life, where they can think about, what they've done. They can consider how to redeem themselves, if that's a possibility.